I'm here with Scott DeBow, and he's added a new title to your name.
Last time, have I?
Since the last time?
What title is it?
Author.
That's right. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge deal. That's a big achievement. And I am so happy to congratulate you on safety management systems and joint employer environment. And what a cool deal. What a cool deal.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on your show, your podcast show. This is a show.
This is a show. Yes. Well, so what are we going to talk about today? Because I have lots of questions for you.
Okay. So as I said, it's 9:30. I'm still waking up a little.
He partied last night.
Yeah,
Let's not be.
I partied appropriately.
He left somewhere at 11 last night?
Look, it was 10:30. And tell you what, at this stage,
bedtime.
It is past my bedtime. So moving a little slow, but that's okay. That's okay. So yeah, what are we talking about?
What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about your book? Do you want to talk about what's in your book?
I think we should talk about maybe why I wrote it, the content that's in it.
I want to talk about why you wrote it.
Why I think it's important, but again, thanks for having it because we had such a great conversation last time. We really did.
I'm going to ask you some personal questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to start.
Here we go. I just told you I'm not fully awake. I don't care. All right.
Because you're made for this.
Here we go.
Okay.
Ask away.
What was your biggest fear in writing this book?
Well, there's a few.
Oh, I would like all of them.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. And I almost outlined them in the summary section at the end of the book, and I didn't. I took that out.
I love that.
So for your listeners, what I'd say is, there's the ideas. I have some thoughts and ideas that are challenging some norms that could be perceived as an indictment against friends I have in industries, both business industries and the contingent labor and staffing or agency. And, if they were to pick up and just read a section of a chapter, and the takeaway might be, hey, that's kind of critical of what we're doing. And it's that was never the intent. So it was really important. I write a book and I follow up the book with probably more writing, but just availability to say why is it important to be talking about things, to challenging the norm, to really answering the question, how are we really moving the needle on the 5,000 fatalities we have every year? We're stuck in the contractor community, the staffing community. They're a big, incredibly important part of our workforce, and they're part of the equation. They're part of the solution, which means there's a maturity opportunity for all of us. So that's kind of why I wrote the book, how I address the fear. But my fear is that, first takeaway, it's going to feel a little bit indicting. And that was one thing, but I got over it. Okay. So
this is a really good place to start, because oftentimes when anyone that wants to shake it up a little bit, be uncommon, be out of this little box that they put themselves in, right? And they want to step out of that box, whether it be, I want to talk about something with my employer that's going on that might ruffle feathers, or that might go against what we've always done. Okay, we can put it in terms of what maybe people would be doing.
Okay.
And you just talked about the fear around that. Yeah. How do you just continue to lean in and move forward and say the things that you need to say, or that you want to say, that you're afraid that may not be heard, or there might be some resistance?
Sure. Well, I think composure and humility are very important. So there's giving my opinion on something in just a way that doesn't consider how other people might listen to it. There's getting things off my chest. And, we all vent from time to time. But that's not really what we're talking about. How are we conveying a message? Things we see aren't right.
Nice.
Things we could be doing better.
Yes.
And so there's a composure about it, which means we're steady in our emotions.
Okay.
We're on it. So there's internal reflection first about, hey, I'm fired up and upset about these things. but what's my current mental state to be able to communicate in this moment?
So good.
If it's you and me right now,
Mhm.
I'm checking myself and saying, I'm going to hold that thought.
Am I responding or am I reacting?
Yeah.
Am I reacting or am I composing and responding?
Yeah. I've heard it said, look, are we setting people up to respond well? So I'm considering you, right? If I'm sharing this information with you about, whatever it might be. So the composure piece is very important. And that is, here's the thing. Part of this comes easy for me because my personality, I'm introverted, right? I tend to think things through before I speak, which is good in some ways.
Yeah.
So
I've known people like you.
Which
it
also means
me out.
I can think too long before I say something.
And it could probably paralyze you.
And it can, right? Especially if you just kind of let the, the thoughts come in that aren't helpful or positive. So
the mental game.
Yeah. It's kind of the head game. And so it's important. The composure piece also includes checking ourselves. So how do I think? I think I'm right on this.
Mm-hmm.
What tells me I think I'm right?
Yes.
And so look, when you have the composure, when you see something that's kind of you're going against the grain in the business world, you begin to touch on things that touch people's money, right? Or how they might earn, or they might need to change in order to, you start to touch on some things that are, you can be completely correct on your message, but there's that internal emotional part on, so it really needs to be well thought through. Do you think
money is really the factor that people balk at the most, or is it that we might not be doing it the right way or the best way, and I have to look at that?
That's really a thoughtful question. So the money piece it's an absolute factor because I'm not a business owner. I'm a contributing member to business. I'm a thought leader. I'm in the industry, but if I'm speaking into a business environment, I'm speaking to a group of leaders that are risk takers.
Okay.
Right. They have put their own capital, their own, mortgage their house, or whatever they've done to set their business up on the line. And they think about and they understand risk from a certain standpoint advantage that's important for me to understand and appreciate. So they are the risk takers, but there's some things that they may not know and may need to look. It's kind of a gut check for them. If we have a statement around our values around safety or how we prioritize safety or how we do these things, and but we're saying we need to challenge the norm in some areas, such as how do we make business decisions when one of our employees is in a known situation that could kill them, right? How quickly do we move to walk away from that business? That's a business decision.
Yes.
And at the ground level, if you have the salesperson whose job it is to sell and keep accounts, or an account manager, and it's their job as a parent, a working parent, keep, like my mom, single mom raising me, keeping food on the table. What's the likelihood? So the financial factor for her at the ground level,
like risk is
to
high.
Keep that situation going and do your best. Well, that's one thing, but we're not really addressing the risk. So we're talking about upstream at the higher levels. We really need to have business leaders that we're considering how we speak to them and how we help them understand risk and how quickly it fluctuates at the ground level, at the salesperson, the account manager, the site manager, the safety manager level, and help them recognize risk that can, potentially change someone's life forever, be devastating to an employer from the standpoint of, their public profile.
Right.
Think about the business aspects of increasing premiums, insurance premiums. These are all business factors. So
when someone's ready to shake it up a little bit and have a conversation, a hard conversation, they've checked in with themselves. Are you saying that step 2 is know the numbers before you talk to them?
I would say before that is the approach.
Okay.
Grounded in humility. So composure and humility. So that's before I run with the numbers. Am I really preparing to speak in a way that is building others up? right?
Okay.
Is, hey, I'm challenging. I'm going to present some numbers here. It may reduce our risk profile here, and I'm challenging a business decision. What's the business decision going to be here? But I think you have to start in a way that your emotions are in check. You lead with the idea of benefiting others, and then you get to the numbers.
Yep. Well, humility, it's like being in the right size position. Like, we are all on the same playing field, because if you come at the one up position or the one down position, you're not, I believe, in humility. Because when you're just right sized, you're coming in and saying, I'm here to just give this information to you, to be of service and to be a benefit. Because if you come in with a big ego, or you know everything, or you're meek, no one's going to hear you. But if you're the right sized,
that's the composure piece, right?
Yes.
So we can, the funny thing about meekness, that's controlled strength is actually what that term means.
Really?
Yeah. So,
interesting.
But it can come across as like, mousy, or you're
right,
too reserved. But meekness is really kind of a standpoint of controlled strength. So they're trying to control their own strength. Well, it's like, hey, I have knowledge. I have more knowledge than you in a subject. And I'm trying to correct course. I'm trying to, change, the way the ship is sailing, or whatever it might be. And maybe I have position and authority to come in and just kind of elbow my way up to the front and grab the mic and say, here's what's going down now. Because I have the position, the authority, I have the knowledge, I have all these books, whatever it might be.
Okay.
Right. That's kind of, that's really not, there's a way we can do that. But meekness is, hey, you have a strength, but you don't need your swagger, your authority so much to be able to sell that. We're selling is we're grounded in truly what's beneficial for, the group, what's coming across. The listeners range from the people that are risking from an investment standpoint, business standpoint, keeping their job standpoint.
Yes.
So it creates friction, right? We have to be aware of that. So humility and controlling your strength, even if you know more than others, or if you have knowledge,
or if at least you think you do.
Yeah, or if you think you do. So
because a lot of times when I may not have proper confidence, or I don't think I know, I will project bigger than I am.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
And then it's like all bullshit. It's not real, and then people can smell that a mile away.
Well,
so it's just,
I think my dog does
right size.
So my dog he's like some type of mixture of different, but like when we're walking him, he has fur that raises up.
It's the same thing. It is the same thing.
So it's kind of built into us as humans too. Yes. There's that part of us.
So just come right size and
I don't
walk
think
in.
I don't think that's wrong, because that's in our DNA. It is like, hey.
It is, but if it's really a fake vibrato, then people smell it. They just want you to be. They just want you to come in right size.
I think we're talking about ego. Right?
Oh, that's absolutely one of my favorite subjects.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite subjects is the ego.
Yeah.
Because, well,
we all have one.
Well, we need it. Ego, the word ego is
with?
actually just, sense of self. So it really should be called false ego or false pride, because because ego is just sense of self. So when our ego is just sense of self, then we're humble. There we go.
Yeah,
and right size. But if it's false, then we go one up or one down.
Stacey, you know what I just realized?
What?
So we just kind of came full circle, because you asked. I was like, hey, what were my fears before kind of writing this book? And I kind of went through this internally. Is like, how do I write about myself? That's because they would ask, write your, you have to prove yourself, right? You have to accurately prove yourself. So what's your experience? Why is your book a good thing to write about? Has anyone else ever written about it? Who would be interested in your book? And then there's the writing itself. And it's the especially like in the act, there's so many brilliant authors in the safety space and writers, and they're academic.
Yes.
And they write very, very well.
Yes.
I'm not like a trained writer. My wife is.
Did you vacillate from big and small?
Well, first of all, help me understand, what does vacillate mean?
Going from
yeah,
like vacillating
yeah,
is
I think so.
Is
So this
I'm
is where,
up and then I'm down, and I'm huge and I'm stupid and I'm smart, I'm dumb, I'm everything, I'm nothing.
I think I kind of felt centered, but a constant state of checking myself.
Okay.
All right. And so, working through the fears, like what if, what if something I say really upsets somebody? What if I write in a way that, what if my book isn't received well? What if people think, oh, I didn't get this? What if your drawings are bad? Okay, I know that.
Do you have
but
drawings
did you get?
in here?
I do.
God,
So,
but you just said, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just.
These are all my fears. I think my drawings are actually pretty good. They were hard to fit all of the content in a little tiny page.
This
was a point of much discussion with our publishers. But
I wish you would have drawn this, like with your actual pen and paper.
Well, I still have. Maybe I should do that next.
I do believe that. This is more authentic.
So look, I think we should go back to crayons and construction paper sometimes in our lives, don't you?
It's supposed to be really good for you. I don't know a whole lot about this. So, so we discussed your fears.
Right.
But people are maybe more academic. Because there's academic books, and then yours are thought leader. This is a thought leader book. Am I right? I mean, I'm assuming you have knowledge and data and stuff in here.
Part of what I have is, there's the academic sense from what do we know about.
Like that?
Here we waving. Oh, the book.
Yeah.
Buy it. There's, the academic approach that many businesses don't know about, a framework for how do we meaningfully connect safety systems throughout the life cycle of work with our contractors, with our temporary agency employees, which is missing. We have the framework built. It's really not integrated into the thought processes or the knowledge of many employees, industries. So there's the academic piece, but then there's what I know from being a safety technician, practitioner, manager, director, up to the VP level of leading other teams that are leading safety and trying to, and coming across all of the successes and challenges and the efforts we make to create safety that disappear overnight when a leader changes, right? And so, but that gets to, well, what should we build into our framework to anticipate change, to anticipate error? And so when I started thinking through these things, look, I have knowledge I can share. And this is where, all right, the competency piece, check. All right, I can tell this story and draw from my experience, and I can tell this story and point to framework, consensus standards, success models, and real experience. And that's what I think people want to know. And not just in the safety, I think in human resources, who inherits safety. Did we talk about this last time?
We did.
Okay.
It is. I just talked to someone. I think this is where you're going with this. I just talked to someone yesterday that said, my boss, they let go of my boss. And she's like the EHS manager, right?
Okay.
They let go of her boss. And I was like, oh, what's going to happen there? And she's like, I'm under HR now.
Oh,
and
as a safety manager?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's not too uncommon, but it changes quite a bit.
It changes everything. It changes the whole lens, right?
Yeah. And it does change the lens. And so depending on the organization, there's a lot of organizations where that makes sense. And whether the safety function reports up through finance or HR or like risk management, or straight, there's what's the right fit and connection for that organization.
Okay.
The challenge is, that I don't know who she reported into before.
It was like a safety person.
Yeah, as a safety person, and that safety person eventually reported up maybe straight to the CEO.
Right. Yes.
Don't know in this situation. But the point is, at the end of the day, as safety professionals, we report to somebody. Everyone has a boss.
We all do.
That's what I hear.
We all do.
And from
who's your boss?
The gifts of human resources professionals, the common strengths, where do we start? Common strengths, they obviously care about people because they're in human resources, right? They obviously are very, very good at understanding like systems. Look at HR systems. HR systems from a technology standpoint, I think are maybe at least a decade ahead of safety management.
Really?
technology systems from a safety standpoint.
Okay.
So, and then there's data about employees. It's easy to bridge, like, your HR systems and safety systems if you have a good HR system. So there's strengths and there's advantages there. But then how are our HR people, who often inherit the safety function, trained to think about safety? And they often think from employee performance. Perhaps if there's a safety issue, well, we need to document it. Yes, we need to we should document, but it shouldn't end in a punitive measure like a 1, 2, 3 strikes. And safety has evolved from that. Safety knowledge has moved past that from a human performance standpoint. From, what else human resources people really appreciate and are good at is culture. Culture matters to them.
Yes.
But when we can help
right.
them understand from a cultural standpoint, look, how are we thriving with inclusion? Are we? Yeah, we're talking on psychosocial risk, right? Caring for the worker community that factors in, like, human resources is a good ally. They're good partners. So I think safety rightly can report up to human resources and be healthy. Safety can report up to a safety leader and be unhealthy, by the way.
You know what? You're right. You're right. Yeah, you got me on that one.
But I'm not trying to get you. So,
it's
but
okay.
It really, it's a function of leadership and what do we know about our mission or our purpose, and the importance of our safety methods and our practices need to be sound and current. And many of our friends that are in an HR leadership position that inherit safety don't know these things. Hence the role of a well-informed safety leader, even if they report up to human resoses, right?
Yes. Maybe
So
a human
a lot of
resource
things to
person would
discuss.
be good to come to something like this and get
I think so.
would be I think they would just think, oh my God, there's so it's bigger than I imagined.
Yeah, well, there's powerful connections too. And isn't that what life's about? There's powerful connections between humans. So yeah, how do we help the human resources community who often inherits the role of safety, sometimes with a surprise move like, hey, we just reduced headcount. You now own safety. That happens a lot. What do I do? Where do we go? And there's the regulatory component. There's the compliance component, training. But there's so much more to safety, than those things. And we can look at the safety statistics. I was looking at this recently. So when did you know that, like, in 1970,
okay,
the year before, I think OSHA officially happened. They signed things about OSHA. It was 14,000 fatalities a year, with a workforce that was just over I think it was like 1.5 million.
Wow.
1.5 million.
Okay.
Much smaller workforce, 14,000 fatalities per year.
Okay.
There was a big need for the regulator, for the a compliance engine to come in and drop a plumb line and say, you must measure up to this. And we needed data. We needed reporting on what is happening,
right,
as a basis for how bad is it, and are we getting better in the future. So that was, I think, a incident rate of like 11 and a half workers per 100, like a fatality rate. But fast forward to today, where we have many more workers, many millions and millions of more workers. I can't remember the exact number, but our fatalities are at 5,000.
Oh.
So the role of the regulator is very, very important,
right,
and effective. And as an HR leader understands regulations and compliance, that's the right place and a good place to start. But what we need to help human resources, risk, insurance, whoever safety reports up to, is that we've been stuck there for a decade. We've been stuck there we're not moving the needle.
From 5,000.
Yep. And we know the things.
We're still getting more workers. Well, yeah, I'm assuming
I think so.
Yeah.
And, the things, in most cases, we can look back at, what was the thing that happened? How did this happen? We always ask, what do we wish we knew yesterday so this didn't happen today? That's what we're trying to get a sense of, right? We're just still stuck at 5,000. So we know what we need to do to prevent falls from heights.
Yes.
We know what we need to do to prevent from people getting entangled in machines or run over by forklifts, but it's still happening. So where else do we go from there? All right. We're learning to address the psychosocial elements of risk, the cultural elements, human performance, what really drives employee engagement, which, by the way, employee engagement from a safety standpoint is great. But again, to the HR angle, we drive employee engagement. We learn more about how people are treated, what they need, starting to affect retention. You know, it's fascinating to me. I was just talking with a friend about this yesterday because I shared a story with them about, I heard a word I'd never heard of before. So it was neurodivergent. So neurodiversity. So neurodivergent. This is a few years ago, but I was on a call about lean, like a lean manufacturing improvement program. And, and they just shared, hey, thanks to whoever made all these words into visuals, because now I understand. You know, I've been on the spectrum. I'm neurodivergent. And this is where I was like, okay.
What?
Yeah. So I reached out to them after the call and say, hey, what's that word mean? Thanks for sharing that. By the way, I agree. These visuals, I get it right away. Much, much better. And she said, yeah. So listen, I'm dyslexic and I'm on the spectrum, right? So, you know, in terms of a certain level of autism and so they learn differently. But here's the beauty of the inclusion factor. Here's the beauty of it is she shared with me that I've had to hide this from employers to get a job, to get on a team. She's had to hide this, but you know,
awful.
I know that's,
how awful.
That's tough. But, and my friend shared with me, hey, you know, this is, they're part of the community that are the most unemployed. We have many people on the spectrum or dyslexic that have amazing gifts. If we could just bring them in and change our process and factor in, how do we include this special group, this important group into our process? Because you know what my friend taught me is that she's, and I believe this, I've seen her work. Show her a spreadsheet or patterns with numbers, she'll see things nobody else will. I don't care if they're from like a special college, like a super, that's Harvard
just
or
her
whatever.
Magic. That's her talent.
That's her gift.
Yes.
And it's, it's not just unique to her. That's something we've been missing. So look, when we can say, look, what are safety and HR doing together? Let's just sit down today and talk about inclusion. But what's that mean to you? But where have you seen it work? What should we be doing? Hey, you know where we often don't have inclusion? On the floor around dangerous equipment. Right? We have unidirectional communications to a temporary worker. And we have the satisfaction of saying we communicated. And they'll say, yes, I understand. But there's very little knowledge or oversight about the psychosocial factors, the cultural factors, where they're saying yes because if they say no, they could be viewed as slow to get it and easily replaced. So the unique psychosocial risk about a temporary worker they're simultaneously balancing being a new employee and being a short timer at the same time. I mean, I'm unfamiliar with my environment, thus I may not be here tomorrow. And then we start to couple risk tolerance, which what would I be willing to do to keep my job today? It's different. And so these are the things that we should all be talking about. But I've
never had this conversation with someone else. So good. I mean, really, really, really good stuff. And it's just becoming more aware. And so, just asking more questions, getting more curious. And the main takeaway that I took from what you're saying is if we've got something that may challenge, it doesn't matter who you are in the process. If you're on the floor, if you're middle management, or if you're higher management, if you've got something to say that might be uncommon, there is a formula to take to put yourself out there to express this. And I think that you are, well, I know you are, because you're inspiring me and you're inspiring other people to be uncommon and to maybe disagree with people and do it in a way that is respectful, full of gratitude, full of humility, and doing it anyway. And I think that that's really special. I mean, it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
It's very, very inspiring.
That's very encouraging.
It is.
Thank you.
I'm
for that.
serious. I mean, I'm just so proud of you and what you've done. And before we leave them, I would like you to make a vow to the people that you will name your next book, what you say you're going to name it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I stuck my finger in your eye, but it was necessary.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
no, I can't wait to see what comes of this.
Yes.
I'm sorry I stuck my finger in your eye, but it was necessary.
Yes. Yes.
You know what?
And
Stay
I do
tuned
it
to
again.
Scott DeBow because I don't know what this means or what that's going to say or what the book's even going to be about. It might be a children's book. It kind of sounds like it might be a children's safety book.
It should absolutely include more illustrations.
I would
don't you
really
think? Yes.
like that. Yes. I would really like that. I mean, it would bring you more of you to the pages.
Absolutely. Well, are we landing? Are we landing?
We're going to
now?
land.
Okay.
We're going to land.
Can I say one more thing? Can
Yes.
I share two more things?
Okay. Yes.
All right. 2.5 more things.
No.
So, all right. 2 more things. So, first of all, our conversation, I really appreciate. Thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah.
And normally that doesn't happen unless my wife is here. Right? I get invited back because of her. But thank you for inviting me back.
I'd love to meet your wife.
Oh
I
my
bet
gosh.
she is a gem.
She is.
I bet.
She is. She's amazing. But we talked about like addressing our own internal fear and dialogue. I had a lot of time to process that.
Mm-hmm.
And as I told you, I'm a processor. I probably took too much time to think about that. But on the floor, I think the message and the takeaway is when we think about safety leadership,
Yes.
anyone in a position to influence safety on the behalf of someone else is a safety leader. And that's our HR person. That's our safety manager reporting to HR. That's our operations folks.
That's really good.
That is also most powerfully our employees on the floor doing the job. How are we, because safety's caught more than it's taught, how are we continually creating a comfortable, inclusive conversation where they're free to talk about, and we start asking better questions,
such as curious.
Yeah, we just simply ask. We teach our organizations to ask better questions, so we learn.
I love this
from the employees. Hey, what's the most dangerous thing you think is going on here? Have you ever been encouraged to do something different than the way you were trained to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times those questions, sometimes for weeks or months, they're like, oh no. But you know, something's different. And then something breaks. It's like, yes, they asked me to climb up on the roof every third Thursday. I didn't know that. But then we start to have breakthroughs. So it's really kind of like what's our safety network of human connections and how are we, Campbell Institute, to plug Campbell. I know we're at ASSP right now. Mm-hmm. Campbell Institute's part of National Safety Council.
Okay.
Have written 3 amazing papers, white papers around serious injury and fatality reduction. The third one, the most recent one they talked about safety networks where it's more important for our workforce to be connected to each other than it is for them to be connected to the safety system.
Okay.
And what a punch in the gut that was.
Wow.
A good punch in the gut.
That's
for me.
a really good punch in the gut. And I'll piggyback that with the people so right now we're encouraging the messenger, right? The person that's delivering the information. And now I want to encourage people that are listening to be open and curious.
Yes.
Because when somebody brings you a new thought, it's so easy to shut them down because we've always done it this way and oh my gosh and da da da. So all we have to do is just be open and curious. Just be open and curious. Ask questions, just like you said. Ask questions. Yeah,
and it's something that someone told me once. Vision leaks. So if you have a vision for what you want to do, you have to cast and recast your vision. But the same type of thing, we continually have to be careful about, our narrative. What's the narrative in our organization? And keeping that where it's driving connections one to another within a system, within an important framework, rather than I report to the framework, right? We're connected to each other. And so I like it. So gotta stay curious. Curiosity.
It's one of my favorites.
Humble inquiry. I think that's an Edgar Schein thing. Yeah. So he's I think he's the author of Organizational Culture.
Humble inquiry.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
We'll talk about that next time if I'm ever invited back again.
Oh, I think you will be. You're my favorite interview. Don't tell anybody else I said that.
I won't.
Okay.
It's a good thing we're not recording.
Thank you. And we'll put all the places that people can find you and find your book, Safety Management Systems and the Joint Employer Environment.
Thank you so much, Sospes.
You're welcome.